So let's start with our block. So this is the block, and it looks kind of blue on the printout, but it's actually jade is the color.
If I didn't see the fabric.
The fabric.
Nice, beautiful.
Okay, well those two go together.
Yeah, they go together really well.
This is going to be a beautiful quilt. Pattern is out there to download, I think. I didn't test it, so let us know if you downloaded it already.
Yeah, tell us if you download the pattern.
So this little part right here, there is no die, but you could use the 1.5 inch strip die, or you could use the 3.5 inch strip die to make it. But if you don't have either one, I'm going to show you a little bit of a cheat to do it too. So let's get started. I cheat everywhere I can. This is die number 1 from the 6-inch cube. And again, I have to measure. The die is exactly 3.5, so I'm going to cut a 4-inch strip out of both of these fabrics. Get that out of the way. Those are lined up pretty well. I'm just going to maybe a little bit bigger than 4 inches because I'm going by my salvage right down here on the bottom to measure, and you can see my fabric is just a little bit crooked, and I kind of want to be on the straight grain, so I'm going to cut it like 4 1/4. Okay, so we need 5 of the blue, or the green. I'm looking at the pattern and saying blue, of the jade. So I'm just going to fold these over because I know I can get 4. Okay. And then I'm going to take my other strip because I can cut 6 layers, and I'm going to cut 2 more of those. And this is the cheat part. 2 extra squares. Cut it so that my salvage is the right direction. Spin that through. And then we need, so we don't need any of the black on this die, but we need 8 of this piece right here, this little tiny, this is a 1.5 by 3.5 inch strip. Okay, and so we need 8 of those, so I'm going to cut 4 of these. Okay, is everybody with me so far? Thumbs up if you are.
Hey, Jenny.
Okay, and so we're done with that, and so I'm really going to carefully just pick up all of my waste right there. I can move this out of the way, and I'm going to pick up these 4. Well, I did mess them up a little bit, so, but let me just get them stacked nice and tidy again. And then with my ruler, I'm going to cut 1.5 inch strips, and then guess what? I'm going to have all 8 of my 3.5 by 1.5 strips just right there, and there's going to be a 1/2 inch left over.
Is that a magic ruler?
It is a magic ruler. We do need a new blade for this.
Oh yeah, you reminded me to change that. Oops.
So there's my 8 strips of that, and then I'm going to take, we needed 4, let me look at my pattern, make sure I'm right, 4 pieces of the jade.
Lots of thumbs up.
For the, oh, I do need that one. Again, so I need 1 more of those. Can only cut 6 layers, so I need 1 more block of that.
Weak wrist.
And so just going to lay that right on there like that. And so it's just a real easy, you know, if it saves you 1 cut with the rotary cutter, it's worth it. these lined up pretty straight. Line these up again. And there are all of my strips for that. Super easy.
I just can't wait to see what some of the quilts look like. You know, the people that are sewing along.
Oh,
It's gonna
yeah.
be so cool.
Yeah, I can't wait either. I think they're going to be just really super cool. So back to sewing on this machine. This is the PE 2020. So the thing that you get with this one is you get all the extra feet and the really cool retro paint job. So we're going to piece all of these pieces together, and then we're going to press our seams with our tool and then sew the other side on. And then it's just a really simple 9-patch. I always get in the habit of sewing with a 1.8 millimeter stitch, because if I have to go back, say I was chain piecing strips together, because you could do that, sew 1.5-inch strips together and then cut them again. I always sew with a 1.8 millimeter stitch length, because if you have to cut those strips apart and you're cutting across your stitches, the 1.8 millimeters is going to keep your pieces from coming apart. Okay, so I'm going to sew my last piece. I think I did that right. I did. You never know. Last couple of episodes, I've like been kind of messing up on my sewing here. That's how we figured out that new tool for the seam ripper with the thread eraser. Did you guys see that one?
Oh. Well, that'd be them right there. We got a
That is
couple
them.
left, and we're ordering
Those are
some
the
more.
only two.
That's the only two. This tool is the one. And it's really cool. It's got this little like almost eraser head on it where you rub it over your threads, and it just pulls all of those little strings out after you cut your threads and clip them. It's cool. So let's get the block laid out. Hopefully I won't mess this one up. The last one was pretty simple and I did.
Those are the trickiest ones because you think you can just whip right through it.
I agree. And obviously I couldn't, so I'm going to sew these like one at a time. Here. And I don't know if my seam is just a little bit too big because my pieces are not quite. So if you've ever had this, so you've pieced your blocks together, so we're not going to rip this out, we're just going to make it work.
Oh, erase it.
Or erase it. So if you've ever had this where you have a little bit on both sides, what that tells you is your seam is not quite a 1/4 inch. And so I'm just going to fudge these and just piece them one at a time, and then we'll piece our rows and just center it on that piece of fabric we cut. So you can kind of see it sticks out a little bit on both sides.
Then what, will you just trim it down?
Nope, we're not going to trim.
Not gonna, oh no.
Nope.
Bad word, bad word.
So what we're going to do is just kind of center it on that block a little bit, and the 1/4 inch is enough that you can just fudge that into your quilt project and still I'm going to loosen up this presser foot pressure a little bit. I think it's pulling the fabric a little bit. It'll work out. So if you notice going this way, they line up perfectly. So that's how you know if you're piecing along and then you find that you have that, check your 1/4 inches because you're not quite on there. That's a symptom of you don't quite have it lined up yet. Let's grab this one. That never happens to you, does it?
Mm-mm.
Never.
Never.
Or always. There's that.
Well, it's 5/8 of an inch in garment construction and 1/4 inch in quilting. So I'm going to press these seams this direction on this one. So my seams are going out towards the unpieced blocks and then towards the unpieced block on this one. And I'll show you what I mean. So when I line this up, so when you're doing this and you're lining it up, you want to line up these seams right here, right? So see how it sticks up on this side? And if you look over at this side, these will line up as well because they're the same length. It was the sewing here that caused my issue. So when you're doing that, so this is a good teaching moment. So when you're doing that and you have that, you want to line up these intersections right here and right here. And don't worry about this part right here. Your sewing machine is going to catch it. Because nobody wants to go back and recut.
It's my favorite thing to do.
I don't believe you, Marilyn.
You don't?
Nope.
Huh.
And then I'm just making sure my seam is nicely nested there. And then I'm lined up on this other side over here. Okay. Yeah, looking good. And there you go. When you open them up, they all look matched up and squared up and like it never happened.
Perfect.
Erasing an issue.
Things you learn as you go. I mean, I learned this because I've done this enough times.
Right? If they need a sign.
If you need a sign. So, yeah, I know how to fix a lot of quilting problems because I've created a lot of my own quilting problems. Same problem.
Alright.
So if you look, here, let me flip this paper over so you can see a good contrast. So if you look here and here, I have a little bit of shortage on this because when I pieced these together, my 1/4 inch was a little more than a 1/4 of an inch. And even if you look at it, you can, if you quilted enough, you can look at it and go, well, that's not a 1/4 of an inch. It's a little bit too big. And so what you do when you piece these, because these pieces are the same size, the 1/4 inch was missing on this side. This side lines up perfectly. It's this one that was pieced that is a little bit smaller. So when you line these pieces up, let me flip it over so you can see a good example, when you're doing your nested seams, you're going to make sure that this edge of this piece lines up with this edge. And that way, when you sew this together, you're going to have a little bit of a shortage like this. But you'll be able to catch that. So this is about 1/8 of an inch, a little bit less. But you're going to catch your piece, your block, and you're just not going to worry about this extra here that you have. And your block is still going to come out the right size. So line up this piece and this piece, and let this shortage just be short. Don't try to slide it up here so that your seams are even. Go ahead and let that green piece right underneath show and stitch over it. And if you want to get close, you can see how I'm going to stitch over it on the machine. So I'm just making sure that my nested seams are lined up, and then just sew to that seam. So see right here, if you can see, these two pieces are the same, and the black piece is the one that's short. My needle stop in the down position. I'm going to line up these two pieces, and see, you can see this block coming out from on the back side of it, and I'm just going to sew to this seam. And then line up my end pieces here. And I'm going to tug a little bit on this last one because it's a little bit shy and I need a little more. So I'm going to stretch it a little bit. Make sure my seams are facing the right way. And there you go. Turns out great. It's that one. And there you have it. Block 24? 24. And so these little pieces right here, when we put our sashing on, we'll just do the same thing. We'll line the sashing edge up with these green pieces and then not even worry about the other part, because we'll catch it with the sewing machine and it'll work out perfect. So 24.